Dr. Kate Murphy pressed her face against the cold metal window of the research ship Harmony's Edge. The view outside made her stomach twist with excitement and fear. Thousands of alien ships floated in perfect formation around a massive space station that looked like a golden flower with metal petals stretching for miles in every direction. This was Nexus Prime, the capital of the Andromeda Collective, and humanity was about to make first contact with over 200 different alien species. Captain Joe Carter walked up behind her and cleared his throat. "Nervous, Doc?" Kate turned around and saw the worry lines around his eyes. "Terrified," she said, "but also amazed. Look at all those ships. Each one represents a different species that somehow learned to work together. Let's hope they want to work with us too," Carter said. He adjusted his dress uniform one more time. As the ship's captain, he would be leading the human delegation during the welcome ceremony. The responsibility felt heavier than his military training had prepared him for. Ambassador Lisa Brooks joined them at the window, carrying a thick folder of diplomatic protocols. She had spent the last 6 months studying everything humanity knew about the collective, which wasn't much. Most of their information came from long-range observations and intercepted communications that their computers could barely translate. "The translation systems are still giving us problems," Lisa said. "Their language has over 40 different words for what we call eating, and each one means something completely different to them." "What do you mean?" Kate asked. Lisa opened her folder and pulled out a chart covered in alien symbols. "Near as we can tell, they have separate words for eating plants, eating small animals, eating large animals, eating prey while it's still alive, eating prey after it's dead, eating something you killed yourself, eating something someone else killed, and about 30 other variations. It's like their entire culture revolves around who eats what." Captain Carter frowned. "That seems overly complicated for something as basic as food." "Maybe that's the point," Kate said. "On Earth, we eat pretty much everything. But what if these aliens built their whole society around strict food rules? What if who you are depends on what you're allowed to eat?" Before anyone could answer, the ship's communication system crackled to life. "Attention, human vessel Harmony's Edge. You are cleared for docking at Port 17. Please prepare for biological assessment and cultural classification." Carter walked to the communication panel and pressed the transmit button. "This is Captain Carter of the human delegation. We are ready to dock and looking forward to meeting with the collective leadership. Acknowledged, human vessel. Please note that all dietary requirements will be assessed during processing. Nutrition paste will be provided according to your biological classification." The three humans looked at each other with confusion. "Nutrition paste?" Carter asked. Lisa flipped through her notes. "I think they're talking about food. But why would they give us paste instead of actual meals?" An hour later, they found out. The docking process went smoothly enough, with mechanical arms guiding their ship into a berth inside the massive station. But when they stepped through the airlock, they were met by the strangest group of creatures Kate had ever seen. The welcome committee consisted of 5 different alien species, each one more unusual than the last. A tall, thin creature that looked like a walking stick insect stepped forward first. Its voice came through a small device attached to its chest. "Welcome to Nexus Prime, representatives of the species called humans. I am Administrator Kixtal of the Harmonious Leaf Eaters. You will be escorted to processing for biological and dietary classification." Behind the insect creature stood what appeared to be a large purple slug with multiple eyes, a bird-like being with bright blue feathers, something that reminded Kate of a walking tree, and a small furry animal that looked almost like an earth rabbit but with 6 legs. They were led through corridors filled with other alien beings, all moving in organized groups based on what appeared to be some kind of ranking system. The largest, most dangerous-looking creatures walked in the center of the passages while smaller, gentler species stayed close to the walls. "Interesting," Kate whispered to Lisa. "It's like a pecking order, but for an entire civilization." The processing center turned out to be a large room filled with scanning equipment and computer terminals. Administrator Kixtal gestured for the humans to stand on a raised platform, while various machines hummed and beeped around them. Your species will now be categorized according to Collective Standard Biology Assessment Protocol, the insect creature announced. Please remain still while scanners determine your dietary classification. Lights flashed over the humans as the machines did their work. Kate watched the readings appear on screens around the room, but the alien writing made no sense to her. After several minutes, the machine stopped and Administrator Kickstal studied the results. Curious, it said, tilting its head in a way that reminded Kate of a praying mantis. Your species shows characteristics of both plant and animal consumption. This is unusual. We're omnivores, Lisa said carefully. We eat both plants and meat. The administrator's translation device made several clicking sounds before responding. Clarification required. Do you consume the flesh of creatures you have personally killed? Sometimes, Carter said. Humans hunt animals for food, but we also raise livestock and eat plants we grow ourselves. More clicking sounds. The other alien species in the room began making noises that Kate assumed were expressions of surprise or confusion. Additional clarification required, Administrator Kickstal said. Do you consume the flesh of apex predators? The three humans looked at each other. Kate wasn't sure how to answer that question. On Earth, humans did eat sharks, bears, and other top predators, but she had a feeling that might not be the answer these aliens were expecting. Occasionally, she said finally. But usually we eat smaller animals like cattle, pigs, and chickens. The one translation device went silent for almost a full minute. When it finally spoke again, Administrator Kickstal's voice sounded different, more uncertain. Your species will be temporarily classified as curious scavengers, pending further review by the High Council. You will be provided with standard nutrition paste and basic accommodations in Sector 7. As they were led away from the processing center, Kate noticed that other alien species were watching them with what appeared to be a mixture of curiosity and pity. She had the uncomfortable feeling that being classified as scavengers was not a good thing in this society. Their accommodations turned out to be small but clean rooms in what was obviously a lower-class section of the station. The nutrition paste was exactly what it sounded like, a bland, gray substance that tasted like cardboard and provided basic nutrition without any flavor or texture. That night, as the three humans sat in Carter's room sharing their meager meal, Lisa voiced what they were all thinking. I think we just got classified as the bottom of their food chain, she said. The question is, Kate replied, what do we do about it? 3 weeks had passed since the humans arrived at Nexus Prime, and Dr. Kate Murphy was getting worried. The crew of the Harmony's Edge was starting to show signs of protein deficiency. The gray nutrition paste provided all the basic nutrients they needed to survive, but it lacked the complete proteins that human bodies required for long-term health. Kate walked through the station's medical bay after completing her daily health checks on the crew. Chief Engineer Mike Davis had complained of muscle weakness, and Communications Officer Beth Turner was having trouble concentrating. Even Captain Carter seemed more tired than usual. We need real food, Kate muttered to herself as she made her way to the diplomatic quarters. She found Ambassador Lisa Brooks in her office, surrounded by stacks of translation documents and cultural studies. Lisa looked up from her work with tired eyes. Any luck with the dietary requests? Kate asked. Lisa shook her head. Every time I try to explain our nutritional needs, the translation system makes it sound like we're asking for something inappropriate. Yesterday, I requested permission to supplement our diet with natural proteins, and 3 different species filed formal complaints thinking I was making threats. What kind of threats? Near as I can tell, they think I was saying we wanted to eat them. Lisa rubbed her temples. Their language is so focused on who's allowed to eat what that they can't understand the concept of simply needing better nutrition. Kate sat down across from Lisa's desk. Have you tried talking to the Biological Assessment Board directly? Actually, I have a meeting with them this afternoon. Want to come along? Maybe a medical perspective will help. 2 hours later, Kate and Lisa found themselves in a circular chamber filled with representatives from various herbivorous species. The board members were all prey animals in the collective's hierarchy, creatures that spent their lives in fear of the apex predators that ruled their society. Administrator Kickstal, The insect-like creature who had processed them on arrival served as the board's spokesperson. The human delegation requests dietary supplements. Please explain your biological requirements. Lisa spoke carefully, trying to use simple words that wouldn't trigger the translation system's confusion. Human bodies need proteins that we cannot get from the paste you provide. On our world, we supplement plant nutrition with animal proteins. The board members made various clicking, chirping, and whistling sounds that Kate assumed indicated surprise or concern. You consume animal proteins? Asked a rabbit-like creature with 6 legs. Are you requesting permission to hunt other species? No, Kate said quickly. We need proteins from animals, but not from intelligent species. We eat creatures that are not smart enough to talk or think like we do. More sounds of confusion from the board. Administrator Kickstal consulted a large screen covered in alien text before responding. The collective maintains strict protocols regarding protein consumption. Only apex predator species are permitted to consume animal flesh. All other species must consume plant-based nutrition or approved protein substitutes. But we're not asking to hunt apex predators, Lisa said. We just need some kind of meat protein to stay healthy. Clarification, you stated that your species consumes animal proteins. Are you claiming to be apex predators? Kate and Lisa looked at each other. This was getting complicated fast. Humans are omnivores, Kate explained. We eat both plants and animals. On our world, we are apex predators, but we also eat many things that apex predators here might not eat. The translation system made several harsh buzzing sounds before going silent. The board members began making agitated noises among themselves. Finally, Administrator Kickstal spoke again. Your classification as curious scavengers does not permit apex predator dietary privileges. However, the board recognizes that your species may have unusual biological requirements. Permission is granted to supplement your nutrition with approved animal proteins available in the commercial sectors. After the meeting, Kate and Lisa made their way to the station's market district. The commercial area was enormous, with thousands of vendors selling everything from exotic plants to technological devices. But finding appropriate food turned out to be more challenging than they expected. Most of the protein sources available to non-apex predator species were insect-like creatures, or synthetic substitutes that tasted even worse than the nutrition paste. Kate was starting to lose hope when they came across a vendor tucked away in a corner of the market. The vendor was a nervous-looking creature that resembled a cross between a mouse and a bird. It kept looking around as if afraid of being caught, doing something wrong. You are the humans, yes? The vendor whispered. I heard you have special dietary needs. We're looking for real protein sources, Lisa said carefully. The vendor glanced around again, then gestured for them to follow him behind his stall. In a small storage area, he showed them several containers filled with what appeared to be actual meat. This is disposal meat, the vendor explained in hushed tones. When apex predators make their kills, they only eat the prime cuts. The rest gets thrown away. Technically, it's waste material, so lower species can purchase it for industrial purposes. Kate examined the meat samples. Some of it looked familiar, similar to beef or chicken from Earth. Other pieces came from creatures she didn't recognize, but they appeared to be genuine animal protein. What kinds of creatures do these come from? She asked. The vendor's translation device made several clicking sounds before responding. Various apex predator prey species. Some comes from razor-jaw leviathans, the terror of deep space. Some from flame-wing hunters, the nightmare of 3 worlds. And this, he said, pointing to a container of white meat, comes from void stalkers, the most feared predators in the galaxy. Kate picked up a piece of the void stalker meat and examined it closely. It looked remarkably similar to chicken breast. How much for a variety pack? Lisa asked. For the humans who dare to eat what others fear to touch? Special price, 50 credits for enough meat to feed your crew for a week. As they completed the purchase, Kate couldn't help but smile. These aliens were terrified of creatures that looked like space versions of animals humans ate every day on Earth. The razor-jaw leviathans sounded like sharks. The flame-wing hunters could be some kind of bird, And the void stalkers were probably just large predatory animals similar to big cats or bears. On their way back to the human quarters, they encountered Captain Carter in the corridor. He looked tired but smiled when he saw their packages. "Good news, I hope?" he asked. "Better than good," Kate said. "We just bought disposal meat from some of the most feared predators in the galaxy, and if I'm right, we're about to have the best meal we've had since leaving Earth." "There's something else," Lisa added. "I got a message while we were shopping. General Rex Kolvar wants to meet with us." Carter's expression became serious. "The military commander? What does he want?" "He's inviting 10 of us to dinner at his private compound tomorrow night. Apparently, he's heard rumors about our dietary peculiarities and wants to observe human eating habits firsthand." Kate grinned. "I think it's time to show these aliens what humans consider a proper meal. We should bring Chef Danny Rodriguez from the ship's galley. If we're going to make an impression, we might as well make it a memorable one." Captain Carter nodded slowly. "All right, but let's be careful. Something tells me this dinner is going to change everything between humans and the collective." As they walked back to their quarters carrying packages of apex predator meat, none of them realized just how right Carter was. The dinner with General Kolvar would indeed change everything, not just for humanity, but for the entire galactic civilization that had built itself around the fear of creatures that humans considered perfectly good eating. Chef Danny Rodriguez stood in the small kitchen area of the Harmony's Edge, staring at the packages of alien meat spread across the metal counter. He had cooked for diplomats, military officers, and even a few celebrities back on Earth, but he had never prepared dinner for a gathering that could determine humanity's future in the galaxy. "So let me understand this correctly," Danny said to Dr. Kate Murphy, who was helping him examine the meat samples. "These razor-jaw leviathans are basically space sharks?" Kate nodded. "The bone structure is almost identical. Same cartilage framework, similar muscle fiber patterns. I'd bet my degree that these things swim through space the same way sharks swim through water." Danny picked up a piece of the flame wing hunter meat. It had the same texture and color as chicken breast, but it was 3 times larger than any chicken he had ever seen. "And these are like giant space chickens, that's my best guess. The wing structure suggests they're flyers, and the meat composition is remarkably similar to poultry from Earth." Captain Carter walked into the kitchen carrying his dress uniform. "How are the preparations coming along?" "Better than expected," Danny said. "This void stalker meat looks like premium beef. I'm planning to do a surf and turf style meal, grilled razor jaw steaks with flame wing hunter prepared buffalo wing style, and void stalker prime rib as the main course." "Are you sure that's wise?" Carter asked. "These aliens seem to worship these creatures as living gods." Danny shrugged. "Back home, my grandmother used to say that the best way to show respect for an animal is to cook it properly. Besides, if we're going to make an impression, it might as well be a good one." 2 hours later, the human delegation stood outside General Rex Kolvar's private dining hall. The building was massive, designed to intimidate visitors with its towering black walls and sharp architectural angles. 2 enormous guards flanked the entrance, reptilian creatures that stood nearly 8 feet tall with scales that looked like natural armor. Ambassador Lisa Brooks checked her translation device one more time. "Remember, let me handle the initial introductions. We don't want any diplomatic incidents." The doors opened with a deep rumbling sound, revealing a dining chamber that could have seated 100 people. But tonight, only one table was set up in the center of the room. General Kolvar sat at the head of the table, and he was even more imposing than the humans had expected. The general stood nearly 10 feet tall, with dark green scales covering his massive frame. His head was elongated like a crocodile's, filled with razor-sharp teeth that gleamed in the chamber's lighting. When he spoke, his voice was deep enough to vibrate through the floor. "Welcome, humans," General Kolvar said. "I have heard interesting stories about your species. Please, sit and share your meal with me." The humans took their seats around the table while Danny and 2 crew members brought out the food from a portable cooking unit they had set up in an adjacent room. The alien officers at the table watched with curious expressions as the first course was served. Danny placed a plate in front of General Kolvar that contained perfectly grilled razor jaw steaks, seasoned with earth herbs and cooked to medium-rare perfection. The meat was still sizzling slightly, and the aroma filled the chamber. General Kolvar stared at the plate for several long seconds without speaking. His officers, 3 other reptilian creatures similar to their commander, made low hissing sounds that might have been expressions of shock. "This is Razor Jaw Leviathan," General Kolvar said finally. "The terror of deep space. Ships flee when they detect these creatures in nearby sectors." "Yes, sir," Danny said proudly. "Grilled over high heat to seal in the natural juices, with a light seasoning blend to enhance the flavor, without overpowering the meat's natural taste." "You have prepared the terror of deep space as food," one of the other officers said, his voice filled with disbelief. Captain Carter cut a piece of his steak and took a bite. "It's excellent, Chef. Tastes like a cross between shark and swordfish." Dr. Kate Murphy nodded in agreement. "The texture is perfect. You managed to keep it tender despite the dense muscle fibers." General Kolvar watched the humans eat with growing fascination. Slowly, he picked up his utensils and cut a small piece of the razor jaw steak. He examined it carefully before placing it in his mouth. The change in his expression was immediate. His eyes widened, and he made a low rumbling sound that the humans couldn't interpret. He quickly cut another piece, larger this time, and ate it with obvious enjoyment. "This is remarkable," General Kolvar said. "I have consumed razor jaw leviathan before, but never prepared in this manner. The flavor is extraordinary. Wait until you try the Flame Wing Hunter," Danny said, bringing out the next course. The Flame Wing Hunter had been prepared buffalo wing style, with a spicy sauce that Danny had adapted using alien spices from the market. The meat was tender and flavorful, with just enough heat to add excitement without overwhelming the palate. General Kolvar took one bite and immediately reached for another piece. His officers followed his lead, and soon all of the aliens at the table were eating with enthusiasm they tried to hide. "On your world," General Kolvar said between bites. "Do you regularly consume creatures of this type?" "All the time," Lisa said. "Humans have been apex predators on Earth for thousands of years. We eat sharks, which are similar to your razor jaw, leviathans. We raise birds for food that are related to your flame wing hunters, and we hunt large predators that are probably similar to your void stalkers." "You hunt apex predators for sport?" one of the officers asked. "Sometimes for sport, but usually for food," Carter explained. "On Earth, humans are at the top of the food chain. We eat pretty much everything." Danny brought out the final course: void stalker prime rib, slow roasted to perfection and served with a rich gravy made from the meat's natural juices. The aroma alone made General Culver's eyes roll back in pleasure. "This is void stalker," he said in amazement. "The nightmare predator that hunts in the darkness between stars, and you have made it smell like paradise." "It's just good cooking," Danny said modestly. "Back on Earth, my restaurant served similar cuts of beef every weekend." As the meal continued, the conversation became more relaxed. General Kolvar asked detailed questions about human hunting techniques, cooking methods, and food culture. The humans described barbecue competitions, seafood festivals, and steakhouses, while the alien officers listened with growing amazement. "Your species consumes apex predators as casual meals?" General Kolvar asked. "Pretty much," Kate said. "Human. Children eat what we call chicken nuggets, which are made from birds similar to your flame wing hunters. We have restaurants that serve nothing but shark meat. And beef, meat from large grazing animals, is one of our most common foods." "Children consume apex predator flesh as a regular meal?" "Well, technically chickens aren't apex predators on Earth," Lisa explained. "But sharks definitely are, and yes, children eat shark sometimes. We have a soup made from shark fins that's considered a delicacy." General Kolvar set down his utensils and stared at the humans with an expression they couldn't read. Finally, he spoke again. "I understand now why your species was difficult to classify. You are not scavengers. You are apex predators who have learned to hunt apex predators. Your entire planet must be a world of monsters if creatures like these are common. Prey." "Not really," Carter said. "Earth is actually pretty peaceful most of the time. These kinds of predators exist, but they're not usually dangerous to humans anymore." We've been hunting them for so long that we've learned how to do it safely. And you prepare them as food because? Because they taste good, Danny said simply, and because good food brings people together. That's what my grandmother always said. General Kolvar leaned back in his chair, processing everything he had heard. Around the table, his officers were still eating with obvious enjoyment, their earlier shock replaced by culinary appreciation. This meal has given me much to consider, General Kolvar said finally. Your species may be more remarkable than the collective initially understood. The news spread through Nexus Prime faster than anyone expected. Within 12 hours of the dinner with General Kolvar, every communication channel on the station was buzzing with reports about the humans who ate apex predators as casual food. Dr. Kate Murphy woke up to find her door buzzer going off constantly. When she opened it, she discovered a line of alien species representatives stretching down the corridor, all waiting to speak with her. The first in line was a butterfly-like creature with rainbow wings who spoke in a voice like wind chimes. Dr. Murphy, is it true that human children consume flame-wing hunter flesh as regular nutrition? Kate rubbed her tired eyes. We eat chicken, which is similar to your flame-wing hunters, yes. The butterfly creature made a sound like tinkling bells. Impossible. Flame-wing hunters are death incarnate. They have destroyed entire colonies. On Earth, chickens are pretty harmless, Kate explained. We raise them on farms specifically for food. More chiming sounds, this time from several other creatures who had gathered to listen. Kate realized that trying to explain human dietary habits one conversation at a time was going to take forever. Meanwhile, Ambassador Lisa Brooks was dealing with her own crowd of curious aliens. Her office had become so packed with visitors that she had to move the meetings to one of the station's larger conference rooms. A slug-like creature with multiple eyes raised one of its tentacles. Ambassador Brooks, our translators indicate that humans consume what you call shark fin soup. Are these sharks similar to razorjaw leviathans? Very similar, Lisa confirmed. Sharks are large predatory fish that humans have been catching and eating for thousands of years. You catch them? Asked a bird-like alien with bright blue feathers. How do you capture creatures of such terror without being destroyed? Fishing nets mostly, sometimes hooks and lines. It's not really that dangerous if you know what you're doing. The room filled with various alien sounds of disbelief. Lisa was starting to understand that the collective's entire social structure was built around fear of these apex predators, and the idea that humans treated them as food was shaking their worldview. Captain Carter found himself in an even stranger situation. He had been called to meet with the High Council, the governing body of the entire collective. The council chamber was enormous, with representatives from dozens of species arranged in a circular pattern based on their position in the galactic hierarchy. Chancellor Vexithari, the serpentine leader of the apex predator caste, dominated the center of the chamber. Her voice carried the authority of absolute power when she spoke. Captain Carter, the collective requires clarification regarding your species' dietary claims. Are humans apex predators? Carter stood straight and answered, honestly, on our world, yes. Humans are at the top of our planet's food chain, yet you were classified as curious scavengers upon arrival. Your classification system doesn't account for species like us, Carter explained. We're omnivores who became apex predators through intelligence and tool use rather than natural weapons. Chancellor Vexithari's scales rustled in a way that suggested displeasure. The classification system has maintained order in the collective for over 10,000 years. All species fit into established categories. With respect, Chancellor, humans don't fit your categories because we evolved differently. We didn't become apex predators by being the biggest or strongest. We became apex predators by being smart enough to hunt anything. While the diplomatic meetings continued, Chef Danny Rodriguez was having the time of his life. Word about his cooking had spread throughout the station, and he had been approached by dozens of aliens wanting to try human-prepared apex predator cuisine. He set up a small restaurant in the diplomatic quarter, using equipment borrowed from the station's commercial kitchens. The menu was simple but effective: razor jaw leviathan steaks, flame wing hunter wings, void stalker burgers, and several other dishes made from creatures that the collective considered living nightmares. These 8. Restaurant's first customer was General Kolvar himself, who arrived with 3 other military officers. They ordered one of everything on the menu and ate with the enthusiasm of people discovering flavor for the first time. Chef Rodriguez, General Kolvar said between bites of a Voidstalker burger. This preparation method makes the meat tender and flavorful in ways I never imagined possible. How did humans develop such techniques? Trial and error mostly, Danny replied. My ancestors figured out that cooking meat makes it easier to digest and taste better. We've been improving our methods for thousands of years. Word of the restaurant reached the lower castes of collective society, and soon creatures that had spent their lives in fear of apex predators were lining up to eat them. A 6-legged rabbit-like alien named Pipta was the first herbivore to try the flamewing hunter wings. These are the creatures that destroyed my home colony, Pipta said, staring at the plate. My entire family fled when a flock of flamewing hunters attacked our settlement. I'm sorry for your loss, Danny said gently. But maybe eating them is a kind of justice. Instead of them eating you, you eat them. Pipta took a small bite, then another. Her expression changed from fear to surprise to something that might have been satisfaction. They are delicious. All my life I have feared these monsters, but they taste like the most wonderful thing I have ever eaten. Dr. Kate Murphy spent her afternoon in the station's medical research facility, sharing her findings with alien scientists. She had compiled extensive data comparing Earth's apex predators to the collective's feared creatures, and the similarities were remarkable. The razor-jaw leviathans are essentially space-adapted sharks, she explained to a group of fascinated researchers. Same hunting patterns, similar biology, identical predatory instincts. The main difference is that they can survive in vacuum. A crystalline alien that looked like living glass asked, "How did humans overcome such creatures on your world?" "Persistence hunting," Kate replied. "Humans can run for longer distances than almost any other creature on Earth. We would chase, prey until it collapsed from exhaustion, then kill it with tools. We also learned to work together in groups, which gave us advantages over larger individual predators. You hunted apex predators to exhaustion? When necessary, but mostly we just got better at making weapons and traps. Once humans developed spears and nets, even the largest predators became manageable." The research session was interrupted by an urgent communication. Administrator Kickstall appeared on the room's main screen, looking more agitated than Kate had ever seen the insect-like creature. "Dr. Murphy, please report to the diplomatic quarter immediately. We have a situation." When Kate arrived at the restaurant, she found chaos. Hundreds of aliens from across the social spectrum were crowding around Danny's small establishment, all wanting to try apex predator cuisine. Some were curious, some were excited, but many looked angry or scared. A group of apex predator representatives had arrived and were demanding that the restaurant be shut down. They stood in front of the entrance, using their size and natural weapons to intimidate anyone trying to enter. "This is blasphemy," roared a creature that looked like a cross between a dragon and a bear. "These creatures are sacred predators, not food for lesser species." Captain Carter pushed through the crowd with Ambassador Brooks and General Kolvar behind him. The 3 humans looked tired but determined. "What's the situation?" Carter asked Kate. "Looks like we've started a revolution," she replied. "Half the station wants to try our food and the other half wants to stop them." General Kolvar stepped forward, his massive frame casting shadows over the smaller creatures. "There will be no interference with human dietary practices. Any species that wishes to try human cuisine may do so freely." "You would side with these alien scavengers over your own kind?" the dragon bear creature snarled. "I would side with good food and honest conversation over fear and ignorance," General Kolvar replied calmly. "These humans have shown me that apex predators are not gods to be worshipped. They are simply another part of the natural order." The confrontation was interrupted by Administrator Kickstall, who arrived with a squad of station security. "By order of the High Council, this establishment will remain open pending further review. All citizens are free to patronize human cuisine services according to their personal choices. As the crowd slowly dispersed, Kate realized that something fundamental had changed on Nexus Prime. The strict hierarchy that had governed the collective for thousands of years was beginning to crack, and it all started with humans treating scary monsters like dinner ingredients. "I think we may have changed this civilization forever," she said to Captain Carter. "The question is," Carter replied, watching aliens from across the social spectrum line up at Danny's restaurant, "is that a good thing or a bad thing?" 6 months after the first dinner with General Kolvar, Captain Carter stood in the observation deck of the Harmony's Edge, watching the most important vote in galactic history take place on the screens around him. The Grand Assembly of the Andromeda Collective was in session, and representatives from over 200 species were deciding humanity's official place in their civilization. The debate had been going on for weeks. Some species wanted humans, classified as dangerous invaders who threatened the natural order. Others argued that humans should be granted the highest honors for showing them a new way of thinking about apex predators. But most of the representatives were still trying to understand how 3 humans with some cooking skills had managed to shake the foundation of their entire society. Dr. Kate Murphy joined Carter at the window, carrying a data pad filled with research reports. "The preliminary vote count looks good," she said. "Most of the herbivore species are supporting our proposal for the new classification system." "What about the apex predators?" Carter asked. "Split down the middle. About half of them, led by General Kolvar, think the changes are long overdue. The other half, led by Chancellor Vexithari, want to go back to the old ways. The old ways were no longer working." In the month since Danny Rodriguez had opened his restaurant, the careful social order of the collective had begun falling apart. Species that had lived in fear for thousands of years were suddenly eating their former oppressors, and they liked the taste of freedom almost as much as they liked the taste of properly cooked apex predator meat. The restaurant had expanded into a chain with locations throughout the station. Danny had trained alien chefs in human cooking techniques, creating a cultural exchange program that nobody had planned, but everyone seemed to want. Creatures that had never spoken to each other before were now sharing meals and swapping recipes. Ambassador. Lisa Brooks appeared on the main communication screen from the assembly floor, where she was representing humanity in the final debate. "Honored representatives," Lisa said, her voice carrying clearly through the translation systems that had finally learned to handle human concepts properly. "We propose the creation of a new classification, apex omnivores. This category recognizes species that have achieved apex predator status through intelligence and adaptability, rather than natural weapons or size." Chancellor Vexithari rose from her position at the center of the assembly. Her serpentine form commanded attention as she spoke. "The human proposal threatens 10,000 years of stable civilization. Their dietary practices encourage lower species to forget their place in the natural order." "With respect, Chancellor," Lisa replied, "the natural order on Earth put humans at the top because we learned to work together and use tools. We didn't become apex predators by accident. We earned that position through intelligence and cooperation." A small, furry creature that looked like a 6-legged otter stood up in the lower section where prey species sat. "I am Zinpa of the Gentle, Swimmers. For my entire life I have lived in fear of the deep hunters that destroyed my people's ancient cities. But last week I ate deep hunter steaks prepared by Chef Rodriguez, and I felt something I had never experienced before. I felt like these monsters could not hurt me anymore." More creatures began standing throughout the assembly. A bird-like alien with rainbow feathers spoke next. "My species has been driven from 12 different worlds by terror wings. But when I ate terror wing soup at the human restaurant, I realized that these creatures are not gods. They are just animals that can be caught and cooked," Chancellor Vexithari hissed in frustration. "These humans have filled your minds with dangerous ideas. Apex predators maintain order through strength and fear. Without proper respect for the food chain, civilization will collapse into chaos." General Kolvar stood up from the apex predator section. His massive frame made him an imposing figure, but his voice was calm and reasonable, Chancellor, I have observed these humans for months. They do not create chaos. They create community. Their restaurant brings together species that have been separated by fear for millennia. They share meals, exchange ideas, and learn from each other. This is not chaos, this is progress. You would abandon thousands of years of tradition for the sake of flavored meat? Chancellor Vexithari demanded. I would abandon fear for the sake of understanding, General Kolvar replied. These humans have shown us that apex predators are not gods to be worshipped or monsters to be feared. They are part of the natural world, and they can be understood, respected, and yes, sometimes eaten. The assembly erupted in various alien sounds of approval, disagreement, and confusion. Species representatives were arguing in languages that the translation systems couldn't handle fast enough, creating a cacophony of clicks, roars, chirps, and whistles. Administrator Kickstal called for order and announced that the final vote would begin. Each species would cast one vote on humanity's classification and the proposed changes to the collective's social structure. Captain Carter watched the results appear on the screens as votes were tallied. The herbivore species voted overwhelmingly in favor of the human proposal. Most of the omnivore species supported it as well. The apex predators were split, but more of them supported the changes than opposed them. When the final tally was announced, the human proposal had passed by a significant margin. Humanity would be classified as apex omnivores, a new category that granted them equal status with traditional apex predators while acknowledging their unique evolutionary path. But the vote had consequences beyond just humanity's classification. The Assembly also approved major changes to the collective's social structure. The rigid hierarchy based on dietary habits would be replaced with a more flexible system that valued cooperation and cultural exchange over predatory dominance. 3 hours later, the human delegation was back aboard the Harmony's Edge, preparing for their journey home to Earth. Captain Carter stood in the ship's galley, where Chef Rodriguez was packing up his cooking equipment and training materials. Any regrets about leaving? Carter asked. Danny smiled as he wrapped his favorite knife in protective cloth. Not really. I've trained 20 different alien chefs in human cooking techniques. They'll keep the restaurants running and spread the recipes to other systems. The revolution will continue without us. Dr. Kate Murphy joined them, carrying a collection of biological samples and research data. I've established joint research programs with scientists from 47 different species. They want to study human evolution and dietary adaptation. Some of them are planning to visit Earth to observe our food culture firsthand. Ambassador Brooks was the last to arrive, looking tired but satisfied. The treaty negotiations went better than expected. Humanity now has full diplomatic relations with the collective, trade agreements with 68 species, and cultural exchange programs with everyone who wants them. As the Harmony's Edge prepared to depart Nexus Prime, Captain Carter reflected on how much had changed since their arrival. They had come to the station as unknown scavengers at the bottom of the galactic hierarchy. They were leaving as respected apex omnivores who had accidentally started a social revolution. The communication system crackled to life with a message from General Kolvar. Safe travels, human friends. Your visit has changed the collective in ways we are still discovering. We look forward to continued cooperation between our species. Thank you, General, Carter replied. Take care of those restaurants. Good food has a way of bringing people together. As the ship pulled away from the station, Kate looked out at the thousands of alien vessels still docked at Nexus Prime. Do you think we did the right thing, changing their entire civilization just by eating dinner? We didn't change their civilization, Carter said. We just showed them that their fears were based on misunderstanding. The changes they're making are their own choice. Besides, Danny added from across the galley, my grandmother always said that the best way to understand someone is to share a meal with them. We just shared meals with an entire galaxy. 1 year later, as Earth received its first delegations of alien visitors eager to experience human cuisine and culture, the news networks across collective space continued to report the same story that had started it all. This is Galactic News Network with an update on the ongoing cultural revolution. Human-operated restaurants now serve apex predator cuisine in over 400 systems across the collective. Reservation waiting lists continue to grow as more species discover what humans have known for millennia. Properly prepared apex predators make excellent eating. In related news, traditional apex predator worship ceremonies report their lowest attendance in recorded history, while applications for cultural exchange programs with humanity have reached unprecedented levels. The galaxy would never be the same, and it all started with humans doing what they did best, turning scary monsters into delicious dinner.